Hey everyone, today we're diving into the big idea from James Clear's fantastic book, Atomic Habits. We're going to uncover how these incredibly small, almost invisible changes can lead to some truly life-changing results.
All right, let's just kick things off with a pretty provocative thought. What if I told you that most of the time when we fail, the gym membership that gathers dust, the diet that lasts 3 days, what if it has nothing to do with being lazy? What if the real problem is just that our system is broken? That's the idea we're going to unpack today.
And to really see this idea in action, we're going to look at what might be one of the most incredible turnarounds in the history of sports. It's a story that just perfectly shows how a totally broken system can be fixed one tiny piece at a time.
So let's paint a picture here. It's 2003, and we're talking about the British cycling team. For the better part of a century, they were a joke. We're talking one single Olympic gold medal in 100 years. They were so bad that a top bike company actually refused to sell them bikes because they were afraid being associated with the team would damage their brand. Ouch. But then, everything changed. They hired a new performance director, a guy named Dave Brailsford. And he didn't have some revolutionary new training technique. He just had a philosophy. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea was actually pretty simple. Break down everything you could possibly think of that goes into riding a bike, and then just improve every single one of those things by 1%. The theory was all those tiny gains would add up to something huge. And when he said everything, he meant everything. I mean, they started with the obvious stuff, right? Like, they redesigned the bike seats to be more comfortable. They rubbed alcohol on the tires for a little better grip. But then they went further. They tested different massage gels to see which one led to the fastest muscle recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach the riders the right way to wash their hands to avoid getting sick. They even figured out the exact pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleep for each individual rider. They painted the inside of the team truck white, just so they could spot tiny bits of dust that might mess with the bike's mechanics. They left no stone unturned. So the big question is, did it actually work? Well, the results were, frankly, insane. Just 5 years later, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the team completely dominated, winning an unbelievable 60% of the gold medals in the sport. 4 years after that, in London, they set 9 Olympic and 7 world records. Over a single decade, British cyclists won 178 world championships. It's now called the most successful run in the history of cycling. So how does this even happen, right? How do these tiny little changes, things you barely even notice, add up to such a monumental victory? Well, that brings us to the math behind it all, the incredible power of just 1%. So what's the magic number behind this whole concept? It's this one, 37. Just burn that number into your brain for a second because it is the key to all of this. Here's where that number comes from. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. Oh no, because of the power of compounding, you end up 37 times better. But, and this is the important part, this sword has 2 edges. If you get 1% worse each day, you slide almost all the way down to 0. It just goes to show how much those tiny daily choices really steer the ship. And this brings us to what's really the central analogy of the entire book. It's just brilliant. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Just like your money multiplies with compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply with repetition. It's not about one earth-shattering moment. It's about all the small, consistent deposits you make day in and day out. Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, but let's be real for a minute. We've all been there, right? You try to make these small changes, and you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, getting absolutely nowhere. So why does real progress feel so agonizingly slow?
Well, there's a name for this feeling. James Clear calls it the plateau of latent potential. See, we expect our progress to look like a nice, straight line going up, but in the real world, the most powerful results are almost always delayed. The most important thing to get here is that all that early effort isn't wasted. It's not gone. It's just being stored, building up pressure until you finally break through.
I love this analogy for it. Imagine you have an ice cube in a cold room. The room is 28 degrees. You slowly raise the temperature. 29 degrees, 30, 31. From the outside, what's changed? Nothing. It is still a solid block of ice. But the second that room hits 32 degrees, a massive change is suddenly unlocked. That breakthrough wasn't because of that one final degree. It was because of all the work, all the stored energy that came before it. You know, the social reformer Jacob Riis had this famous line about a stonecutter. The stonecutter hammers away at a rock, maybe 100 times, and not even a crack shows. Then, on the 101st blow, it splits in two. And he knows deep down, it wasn't that last hit that did it. It was all the hits that came before. Mastery takes patience.
So we've got the compounding effect. We get that we need to be patient. Now, we get to what might be the single most practical, actionable idea in this whole thing, shifting your focus from goals to systems.
So let's just make sure we're on the same page. Goals are about the result you want to get. Winning the championship, writing the book, running the marathon, that's the goal.
Systems, though, are completely different. Systems are about the processes that lead to the results. The system isn't win the championship. The system is how you recruit players, how you run drills, how you show up to practice every single day.
And why is this so critical? Well, think about it for a second. First, winners and losers in any field, they have the exact same goals. So the goal itself clearly isn't what makes the difference. Second, hitting a goal is just a temporary fix. If you're a messy person and you clean your room, you have a clean room for a moment. But if you don't change the system of your habits, you'll be back to a messy room in a week. Third, goals put happiness off into the future. You tell yourself, I'll be happy when I reach my goal. And finally, what happens after you achieve the goal? Often your motivation just evaporates and you slide right back down. So let's pull all of these threads together. If real long-term progress isn't about setting goals, but about the slow, compounding power of our daily actions, that leads to a pretty simple conclusion, doesn't it? Your habits are literally your future.
And that right there is what an atomic habit really is. The word atomic is perfect because it means two things. It means tiny, like an atom, but it also means a source of immense power. It's not just any small habit. It's a fundamental building block of a much larger system. Just like atoms build molecules, atomic habits build remarkable results.
Look, if there is only one sentence you remember from this whole breakdown, please let it be this one. This is the absolute core of the entire philosophy. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your system is what catches you. It's what carries you forward when inspiration and motivation are long gone. Which brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? The British cycling team didn't win by staring at pictures of gold medals. They won because they fell in love with the process. They focused on finding that 1% improvement day after day after day. Real lasting change isn't about some heroic leap. It's about a commitment to the process. So we'll end with a question to make this real for you. What's the 1% change you can make today?